Okay, that's the one. We'll go to Mike. Hey, Mike, welcome to the CNC Auto Show. What can we help you with?
Yeah, Aaron. I called you about a month or so ago. I'm the guy that has the mystery ignition failure with the 2006 Chevy Silverado work truck with a 4.3 V6.
Perfect.
And also, I want to really thank you for your show. It's a lot of great information. I'm in the Daytona Beach, Florida area. And unfortunately, the only way that I can listen to your show on the radio is it's a recording a week later. And that's actually how I found out about your show. I'm involved in auto racing, and I usually hear it come on after the NASCAR races on the radio.
Great.
So anyway, thanks for all the great information that you give to people.
Well, I love that, and I appreciate you listening to the show. Now, you can listen live if you want to with iHeart or Facebook. Either one of those are good, but either route,
Okay.
I appreciate you listening. Either way you go. Now, I'm gonna go by memory on this part of it. If I'm not mistaken, you had a vehicle. You had sent an email, and I am so glad you called because I would have kicked myself for not mentioning your concern that you had. You had a vehicle that was cutting off at times, wasn't getting spark, and you would pull the coil wire out, would not get spark. You'd have the car towed. You did things like a crankshaft sensor. You did plugs, some coils, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, what I did, is I put together a whole report of the symptoms and everything I have done, and I just emailed you a copy yesterday, and also Mason. And I don't know if you had a chance to read that email.
I read
yet,
it.
but
And here's what you're going to really like. You had replaced a lot of stuff on there. I sent a text message last night. It was 9:30 or 10 o'clock. I sent it to our shop manager, Jim Bertashaw. He is a wonderful technician. I mean, just unbelievable the problems that he solves. And I wrote to him. Let me see. I start with a. I just wrote him. I sent you an email of radio question if you get a minute. And he looked it over, all the things that you had replaced, and he texted me back last night. He said, wow, he replaced everything that I was thinking. Unfortunately, with everything he has replaced, it seems to be pointing toward a possible bad PCM, powertrain control module. That is what I would go with. A lab scope would allow him to see more on the reference wire, as well as a scan tool to monitor data as it acts up. I was thinking computer also when I read your email of all the things that you had replaced. And you would have a couple of different things you could do. You could if you had a scan tool, you could monitor everything as you go, or have a technician monitor it until it acted up. Or with a lot of things that you're done, it does sound like it's going to be the computer itself. And what I tell everybody is the computer will tell on everybody else, but it won't tell on itself. So makes it more difficult.
Could he ever have a bad ground somewhere?
And something else too. This is a 2006 vehicle, and I live out in the country, and I have about a 2-mile dirt road that I have to travel on every day to get out to the main road, and it's kind of bumpy. And down here in Florida, it's hot. In fact, on this truck, the dashboard has just got a crack. I'm assuming from the heat. So I'm thinking vibration and the heat and everything could possibly have caused something, maybe to disconnect in the circuitry of the computer. And what seems peculiar about this issue, as I put in the email, all the times that I have gotten it scanned, I've been told all the codes that have come up are nothing that would prevent the vehicle from from running.
Mm-hmm.
And, something else too is it seems like every time when the engine under severe load, like when the very first time it happened, I was going down 95 with a load of firewood on my truck.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of, bogged the engine down a little bit. The RPMs dropped down like around 1,000. And that's when it started to hesitate and eventually shut off.
Mm-hmm.
But after I put a new part in, it seems like maybe it's tricking the computer, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It must be resetting something, because it seems like after every time I put a new part in, then I get the spark back coming out of the coil.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, I just wanted to give you all of the symptoms so that, like I said, hopefully between you and the people maybe somebody else has run into this issue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, we have in
did.
certain ways. Now, sometimes they may come about in different ways, but you're right about two things. One, the vibration does play a big part in computer issues. I mean, because you have little solder joints all throughout the computer, and I call them cold solder
Mm-hmm.
joints. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but it can be a joint that may work at one temperature, but it may, as the computer expands a little bit, it might not have a connection, and it can work very. One of the other things that causes them to go bad has to do with heating up and cooling off, because you got the swelling and contracting over and over again. So in your conditions, you have a little bit of both. You have the heat, which it has an effect, and also the vibration. And one of the reasons that I think Jim thought about has to do with the computer, and I do also, is the lack of trouble codes. See, that computer would tell on all the other stuff. Matter of fact, many times crankshaft sensor codes, you'd have an air sensor, mass airflow sensor codes, temperature sensor code. It would tell on all those. And if it cut off, you'd be able to tow it somewhere, and they say, well, you have this code, and that would cause the car to cut off. This code, that would. A computer won't. There's a lot of things that happen with a computer that won't leave any signs at all of what happened. So I'm leaning toward a computer. If you want to go to the next level, you may decide to monitor it while it's being driven, and especially if it acted up, you would know. And like Jim mentioned, a lab scope would be another option. But you get to a point to where is the diagnostic time that you spend on the vehicle, would you spend more doing that than you would to put a computer in there and see how it does?
Right, and that's why I'm a former Chevrolet mechanic from years ago. I worked in the Chevy dealership in the mid '80s, and to be honest with you, I've never not been able to fix my own vehicle until this came along.
Happens to all of us, Mike.
So that's why I was trying to do everything I possibly could, without having to, take it to a dealership and
swallow your pride, Mike. I've done it many times, man.